Good morning, first grade. It is Tuesday, and we are going to be looking and reading today, really looking at this question, the essential question: how do the story elements influence the text comprehension? So those story elements are the character, setting, problem, events, and solution, that beginning, middle, and end. We're really going to be looking at all of these today, and I'm going to see if you're able to, on our Retell hand, if you're able to put those places in order when we look at our book, The Mitten. We're going to be looking at this book a lot this week. So really looking at, the reason why we're doing all this is because we're looking at this this learning target. I can describe the character, setting, and major events using key details so that I can retell what happened in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So at the end of all of our lessons, you're going to be able to retell with more detail the beginning, middle, and end of the story, and really bringing in that problem and that solution. So you are today going to be listening to The Mitten again today, and then really thinking about, I want you to think about the order, the sequence of events as that you guys did yesterday, but really thinking about those character. Remember in our Retell hand, it's that character, setting, problem goes right here, event, solution. So that beginning, middle, and end. And when we retell, we think about the central message or lesson, and that's the heart of the hand. The reason why I'm going through that is because your seesaw activity, I wanted to see if you could put all those places in order, label them, and then put the pieces from our mitten in order as well. And think about that problem and solution. I'm going to show you how that's going to look. So right here, you're going to have this Retell hand, and you can move these. So I'm wanting to know, the green is that labeling part. On our Retell hand, where do all these places go? So this is the beginning. Where does that beginning go? So when we're retelling, we start our beginning right about here. Central message or lesson, remember, is that heart of the hand. So it's going to go right in here. The main character. So that main character is that very first part that we think about. So in the mitten, the main character is the little boy. All the animals come into the mitten, but the main character is the boy because he's the one who lost the mitten, right? And without that character, there wouldn't be a story. Then we think, okay, here's this one's setting. Where does that setting go? Well, it's going to go right here. The setting, remember, the setting is outside on a winter day, right? A cold winter day. It starts at home. It starts, right? If you look back at the story, I have it right here. It starts with him at home, right? With his grandma making the mitten. But most of the story takes place outside on that cold winter day. Then the middle, right? The middle, a middle event, and then the end. Now, in the beginning, we start hearing that problem, then event, and then the end, we get that solution. So that's how we kind of think about our Retell hand, our 5-finger retell. You learned a lot about that, and you guys are really good retelling a story. You learned all that in kindergarten. We're just going to add to that and thinking about today, that problem and that solution, and I'll show you. So now you're going to go, okay, where do all of these fit? Now, he found his mitten. Where does that go? Probably at the end, right? That's when he found his mitten. And then we have a tree outside. Is that outside? So where does that picture go? Probably, you're right, it goes for the setting. Now the character, here's that boy. He is the main character. Without him, he wouldn't have there wouldn't be a story, right? He wouldn't have lost the mitten for all the animals to go in. Now, he lost the mitten. That's a big problem, right? And that is where we find that out towards the beginning of the book. Then, that's kind of big. You guys can shrink it a little bit. Then he found his mitten, still stays there. What happens after he lost the mitten? The middle piece, the fun part of the story, is where the animals, they all got inside that mitten. So I'm going to see if you can remember, and you're going to retell your story. Where can you put all of the pieces of our Retell hand in place? So that central message or lesson, when we think about it, the author usually has a message or lesson in the story. Not always, but a lot of the time. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, but thinking about what is the message or the lesson of this story is probably keep track of your stuff, right? You got to keep track of your stuff. but we'll talk about that. The big thing that I want us to also think about today is that problem and solution. So I already talked a little bit about what the problem and solution was. So here's the problem. We really need to, in first grade, start talking about or using complete sentences when we are sharing our thinking. So we are going to really, I want you to be thinking about this in complete sentence. The problem is. So you're probably going to be writing, either write it with your with the tools, the writing tools, or you can type it like I just did. I put a text box. You're going to want to start at the problem is, or the problem of the story is. What is the problem of the story? What happened? What really set off the problem and then the events, because they're trying to solve the story. So the problem of the story is, or was, is that the boy, right, what did he do? Lost his mitten. Where did he lose his mitten? Outside. So giving those details, you can even give even more details. Outside on a winter day, right? Those details from the story. And then what is the solution? So I want you to think about, what is the solution? How did he solve his problem? So I want to leave that one for you to figure out and you to share. So Mr. Cottingham and I are really looking at, can you place on, use your hand, your Retell hand, 5-finger Retell. Can you place the events in the right spot on the Retell hand? And then thinking about that central message or lesson. We just want, that's the heart of that story. We want you to be thinking about that, because we're going to be talking about that and identifying those and describing those in our next stories. So can you remember this? Can you place all of these pieces on our Retell hand? And then can you identify the problem and the solution in the story? Those are really those key details of our text. We're looking forward to seeing your great work by first grade.